So today I'm talking to you all about utilizing the copy data on save external module. My name is Hannah Higbie. I will be presenting today, and luckily the external module kind of does exactly what it says it does. It's brings the data on save, so we can just go more into that. So the agenda for the presentation, I'm going to give a brief introduction, go over the utility of copy data on save, talk about a problem that we had and the solution, and then have some demo to look at, and then. All right, so just a brief introduction. I'm a senior research manager with IU Center for Aging Research at Regan Street, and part of my role is to build and manage REDCap databases. So a lot of the projects that I've been working on, they don't have specific data management roles, so a lot of this has been done. We kind of learned on the fly with our team. It's been great to have that creative license, but also it's just a lot of learning as we go. So that's kind of one of my things I enjoy the most is actually building. When I do that, my goal is to make sure that we have an efficient workflow, that it works for all users, like front end and back end, so that the data entry users are happy, but also biostats doesn't have to drive balls out with how it's set up. And then we want to have high quality data as well. I'm always eager to grow in my REDCap skill set and to be the best of both end and back. So the utility of copy data on save. It's an external module, and it's accessible tool that you use if you have intermediate REDCap experience. You don't have to be in data management or a data management expert to utilize the module. It improves the workflow compared to previous experience. So our team tends to have two databases, the screening database where we'll have the outcomes database. And I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But with this external module, I have seen it cut down on data entry time because we don't have to be able to do that, as well as user error. So that's been a huge so the variables that are copied over also more useful than saving. So that's something else I'll get into another of. And a disclaimer, I've got about 3 months, I think, if that's right, Andy, that we've launched this experience using this external module. So we're going to be learning a lot more about it. So I'm just going to be talking about the experience that I've had on this project. So the problem that I came across probably last December was that we wanted to build two databases for a pragmatic trial led by Dr. Torpy and Dr. Fowler. So it's called the Aging Brain. There's no consent. We have waiver of consent. More of a program, like a quality improvement program for patients. And so we needed something that would be accessible for novices, those that aren't really using REDCap. And we had, like I said, the two databases. So we got to import a list from our data services, and we housed all of that in our screening database. And then once someone's agreed to the program, I needed them moved to the outcomes database. And so with that, we have to copy that data over. Two REDCap users were novices, like I said. They were social worker nurse, and they needed to simplify their data entry work. Again, to reduce user error and to reduce time spent on the data entry. So my solution for that problem was I got the idea of the copy data on save through AECOM or Albert Einstein College of Medicine. I collaborate with them on another project called IUCAR. And Dristy, who's a senior data manager there, was like, hey, we use this for this project. Why don't you try to use that at IU? And at the time we didn't have it. And so I was like, oh, this is very exciting. So let's see if we can, if we're able to implement that here. And I reached out to REDCap admin, talked to Alexander, talked to Andy, and we were able to get that request vetted and start that external module in time for recruitment, which was an incredibly fast turnaround. And I greatly appreciate that. It's a lot easier to start from the beginning module than halfway through. So again, the copy data on save external module, it copies specific variables from one database to another. You tell it what variables to copy. It works with databases that have events, which is really important to me. So there's some external modules that can do that, but not the destination database. Can't have multiple events or repeating instances. Copy data on save, can't do that. We use kind of some logic to trigger the copy of the variables, and it completes it in real time, which is really exciting because sometimes we have API built, it only refreshes at certain times, and this does it as soon as you press your logic to see it. So I do have a demo that I can kind of walk us through here, and I'll pause it a bit. And this is all the data, so it's not real patient data. FYI. Probably very fast. Fast talker. So this demo will look at, in this particular project, what information that we want to identify to copy over to now. So this is the screening database for the ABCD project, again, for data. And so we're at the information that I wanted to copy was, for example, the care coordinator information, the Harry Potter and Ginny Potter, which are the patient and the caregiver, their contact information, which are housed on this form, and then the EMR review information that our care coordinators are doing before they contact. Right, so some of this is imported, as you can see here. We've got like their sex, race, ethnicity, date of birth. But there's going to be some things down below that the care coordinators are going to do as they review the EMR. You know, if in this case Harry Potter has high blood pressure and depression, we've got some evidence that there was some ADRD work. So this is all again filled out in real time, and that's the information that we needed to copy over, not only for reports in the outcomes database, but just so that way we can reference for our care. So how does this work? We go to the intervention status, and when someone is to agree to the ABC, and they press save, that automatically trigger that pulls my specific information over to the outcomes database. So when they go right over to the outcomes database, they would search practice record. It even copies over the record ID. I have a specific summary page it goes to, and all of this information is the care coordinator, we've got Harry and Ginny and all the things, and the way that it's copied over is I can make it easy to like right. They're preparing to start the programs, it's longitudinal, they have monthly meetings with the patient and the caregiver. So that way it's just quickly easily to reference rather than having to toggle back and forth. And it's all that's the contact information, and then everything that they filled out in the EMR form is also copied over. So that's the demo of like how we're using this, the information that I'm wanting it to pull over. And there's another demonstration I have. It talks about like the back end of how do you set that up for projects. And again, this is not going to see actual data or anything, but when you have like request access for this external module, there's a form that you can fill out and request access of it. Once you have it, you'll go to your external modules, which are down manage. And then you have things that are enabled. Copy data on save is the one that I want to configure. And there is later on in the presentation, I've referenced a link that has specific REDCap directions for a copy data on save module. And that is also, it's just right here, the documentation. They put together already a lovely how-to set everything up, and it was very user-friendly. So I would encourage folks to check that out. So anyway, so you press configure, and then I'm going to take a pause here. So this is kind of like, I like to think of it, if you have experience with REDCap reports, you know, like what you want the report to show, right? And when are you familiar with, you know, your code book and things like that, then this should be pretty simple to put together. And I say something probably because maybe it isn't for everybody else. But I want this enabled, right, to so it works. Turn a module, so it's And then this first section talks about how do you want this to be triggered? Where are you triggering it to, right? And this particular project, my status form, which is that last form that they filled, the agreed to program. And that form has status equals work, agreed to program. Then it'll copy variables that are listed below to this destination database, which is my outcomes database. Another thing I had to specify here was that it was going to a specific event, which is important for my utilization of this, and if other folks want to have it copying to the destination that has multiple or reading it. And so then that's kind of that first section. And there's a second section too that I'll get to, and I didn't really realize it was for the tags that you can use to access groups. I didn't really need to worry about that, so I skipped it. So I wanted the REDCap IDs to be. So for example, in the practice, I showed the record ID I need practice record. So when you save all the specific variables and you want to move over in the outcomes database, it'll also be called practice. It'll be that now. So I wanted that selected. And then below, after you get past the DAG options, this is where you have the different fields that you identify to copy over. Originally, just started to configure this, it only shows 1.1 copy. Now, if you want to add more variables, that's the add plus. So when you do this, you'll have, this is the field and source project. So this is my caregiver assignment, and it shows the variable name and the label because it's in this project. And then where is it going to in the destination? I just kept the naming the same. And so that's coordinated to copy over. And then I have it selected that copy only if the destination field is empty. I don't want it to override anything. That just didn't seem like that would be helpful for REDCap novices. So I have it selected. And I've added all of these different variables, which will just but it can have a limit. So I'm assuming that folks can just keep adding more things, which is really nice. But I don't know how much that would be useful. So I just identified the contact information and then the EMR information, which bases the basis for the care coordinators, the nurse and the social worker, like their care plan. If they continue on with over the year. So once you have that all set up, which I have quite a few, as you can see, then you'd press save instead of exit out, and that would end up immediately and you're ready to go. And like I said, this, I attached a link at the bottom, but this is the first page of the REDCap resource that shows like the description of the copy data on save external module and really specific directions, which I found really helpful. But you can reach REDCap admin if you're interested. It all gets set. So, any questions you can let me know. If not, that's okay too. Not super great at presenting, so I know I just talked very fast. So, hello.
Well, nobody else has any questions. I have some on with that. So a couple things I wanted to add is that when Anna came to us with this question, we originally tried to foist a different external module. And my gratitude to her, why different and why this one helps, that one didn't. Which is part of a larger point that I think is worth making, that we actually now have 4 different external modules that handle something related to pulling data. They all take sort of different slices of it. Anna mentioned that so far it's been working great. That has not always been the case. And you'll see when I talk about this in the next, is that unfortunately with these external modules, since we are not the developers, you can't necessarily fix them with grade. So, as cool as they are, you do have to take them on. You take on the risk if there's a failure. That's something. You're still learning and exploring the space of how they relate to each other. You will see that there is a new age at aiming and resistance after this, or how to request these sort of things and appreciate a conversation with us about this. Are there any questions?
Curious, like, if you have a database that's changing quite a lot, like maybe you go in and edit records, does that update? Did we copy?
So it's not bi-directional, what you're asking, at least that's not how I have it set up. Or you could, the external module is set up in the screen database, and then the destination database could be wherever I've identified the destination. So like if, say, I were to go in and update Harry Potter, you know, so maybe Disney is no longer the caregiver and I change it to Ron, right? That won't copy over to the outcomes database. That's one of the downfalls of having it not override new information, because I've selected it to not do that. So because in this case, it doesn't happen that often, they would just manually update the caregiver or whatever they're updating. If we see a trend in that, then perhaps I would select the don't override, and I could use that.
There is the ability to.
Yes.
I can't recall if you said this or not. But the copying of data on a record basis and not batch product based.
Just on a record, but per record, it doesn't work.
Okay.
If you're to import a bunch of the and it still wouldn't copy over even if it had identified it with triggering.
I do have another question. Andy mentioned that he was trying to steer you guys in another direction. Can you speak on why that other plugin didn't work?
Yeah. So I forget when it was first called, but I think it was on my demo.
Auto record generation.
Yeah.
We also talked about API sync, neither of them melting.
So, the API sync, data manager, using the API, I don't have that skill set, but then the auto record generation, that doesn't work for when you have my destination database as repeating or had, multiple. So that first external module, it wouldn't fail every time because I had events in that second database, whereas this copy data on save, it works with databases that have multiple events or.
Thank you.
Just to note, the API sync module may or may not have worked with repeating instances, I'm not sure. But I think its problem was that it doesn't run automatically with data. So it runs on a schedule, but not immediately.
I needed it. Good question.
Is there a way that you use this module with custom record IDs? Possibly, or is that just
Some record that you like.
so? Like in your example, you had record IDs. Actually, would there be a way to? I don't know, maybe before you do the trigger or something, tell it to label it as a certain record ID.
Perhaps like go to the auto numbering in the destination.
I'm not sure, cause.
You start going back and forth. You're saying.
Oh, yeah. Like for instance, like if you were to have the destination database do auto numbering versus keeping the same record ID.
And I have it, yeah, I have it configured, the IDs, the REDCap, leaders and
Reference.
novices, so instead of kind of like match, where does everything go? It stays the same, but I'm sure if you fiddle around with it more, there could be the auto. But I'm not 100% sure.
We do have a different external module which can match to a field in the destination project itself. May or may not be useful for some. So we are finding that this is a really complicated space.
I have something.
Here we go. This is small but mighty crab.
So, it's not necessarily a question, but I do have a use case in my mind. So I can imagine like the screening of randomization, and the randomization splits out into cohort intervention. Using the criteria, you could then push the intervention cohort to a separate database. And it could even blind maybe their study or something.
Probably if you utilize the DAG option, that could probably solve a lot of those things. But we
Yeah.
don't have intervention, it's just like a pragmatic trial. So everyone they contact is an approach for the program, and they don't really have a consent. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how it could work for projects that I'm on.
You can always reach out. We can reach out.